Hi, we're at the State of Church again and having that opportunity to sit down. We have done this now just a few times over the last year and a half. We used to only basically come before you as a congregation once or twice a year and kind of let you know what's going on, but we really want to try to communicate with all of you better. And so we implemented this quarterly State of the Church. And so welcome, and I hope that you get informed on some things, and we want to keep you in the know. So I've got Mr. Boyd here, our principal. He's going to lead off again this time around and just kind of tell us what is happening at the school.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's good to have a chance to share with the congregation. We are starting the Being Challenge, and we are integrating some of that into the school. I have an opportunity to teach some 8th graders. And one of the things that just was so clear today was, as a church and as a school, our focus on God's grace as the catalyst for change is such a great gift. So many people picture us as Christians saying, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make yourself better and acceptable to God. And God's message is that that's not going to work, but I have something better. I have grace through Jesus Christ. And when we focus on that grace, change comes as an act of gratitude rather than an act of must do this, must follow the rule. Sharing that with middle school kids is actually a blessing, and sharing that with students every day at St. Paul Lutheran School is a blessing. God's grace through Jesus Christ is at the center of what we do. So I'm feeling good this morning.
Good.
So tomorrow marks the midpoint of the 3rd term of our school year, and we actually started 2 weeks late, so this is later than it would be, but it still feels like time is just flying. Even the kids say that, which is pretty interesting. But we're making our progress, and the Lord has provided, even in the midst of challenges. COVID has certainly challenged our church and has challenged the school too. And one thing we noticed, we had a meeting with a parent last week, and we realized that the parent had never met one of the teachers face-to-face before. That's so unusual for us at St. Paul, so unusual. But because of the restrictions of people on campus, we don't have those connections that we normally have. And I think that's challenging for everybody. I really do. We also realize that just as we plan for the spring, normally we would have our middle schoolers be taken off in a couple months for class trips to Washington, D.C., and Tallahassee and so on. And those plans are still up in the air due to COVID, which is frustrating. But we did have a great experience as we've opened up chapel and invited individual grade levels to join the middle schoolers physically in the chapel. And the 4th grade teachers just said that was such a great experience for them this week. And we realized some of our new students had not ever been in a worship service in our chapel before. Here we are, halfway through the 3rd term. So we're blessed that we're having a few more kids in chapel, and a reminder to all of you that we live stream chapel, and we did Ash Wednesday this week, and it was meaningful time for all of us, and we invite you to go to the Facebook page and watch those. And finally, we realized...
Hold on a minute, you also had a wedding you did. Caught you off guard on that one.
You did. That is a fun tradition at St. Paul. Our kindergartners are learning their phonics skills. And one of the things they need to remember is that when we use the letter Q, we also use the letter U. So I was invited to officiate at the wedding of Q and U this week, which involves students actually dressing up and going through a ceremony and being reminded of all the words they can now spell because Q and U are married. And there's a new one we were able to add to the list this year, quarantine.
Oh.
So
that's a big word for a kindergartner, but yes, they know it.
They know it.
Yes,
they know it. So that is one of the fun things. Again, the sad thing is we normally have parents come and join us. We normally have a reception afterwards, and we weren't able to do that. But it was a lot of fun to remind the children that Q and U go together.
And that's on Facebook page as well.
Very good. Very good. And the last thing is people are asking about educators getting vaccinations, and currently in Florida, that's not a priority for educators at this point in time. So and we as a school are not going to insist on educators getting it, but we sure like those that are worried to have that opportunity. So put in a good word for that with the government, please. Thank you. Yeah, we recognize the challenge of having kids at home because of COVID. A lot of times they have to quarantine because a classmate or a staff member has tested positive. Imagine what this would be like 10 years ago.
Oh, my.
For not just the school, for the church as well.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have Zoom.
Absolutely.
The cameras weren't there. The
Yeah.
sound wasn't there. I mean, we had internet 10 years
Right.
ago, but it was still kind of wonky
Yeah.
compared
Yeah.
to the high-speed internet we have today.
Yeah. So as much as we realize distance learning is no substitute for in-person learning, the opportunity we have when kids are in quarantine to have them tune in and be part of the class from the distance is a blessing. So even in the midst of this, we can thank God for things like that. So
One of the things, we had a school board meeting
We did.
just this week,
Yeah,
actually.
right.
And it was great to, go in there and have the opportunity to speak to them. I try to, not make my presence too much known there.
You're always welcome.
I know, and I appreciate that. But it's a great group of people.
absolutely.
And they're really dedicated to the school, and they're connected to the school in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
They're passionate about the ministry, which is St. Paul's largest ministry.
Right.
I know there's always probably a need for a school board member or two from
Sure.
time to time.
Yes, and school board members are people who are actually members of St. Paul Lutheran Church in good standing, active members, who believe in what we're doing, in what we share through that grace I mentioned and what we do educationally with kids. So yes, if there is somebody who's interested in serving on the school board, have them go ahead and give me a contact at the school. You can call, or my email is rboyd@stpaullakeland.org, and we would love to hear from you. So, and I just am reminded that in my 11 years here, we've just had awesome members of the Board of Christian Day School and awesome leaders of that board. Very grateful to them.
One of the things that came up that you were going over was you've got some of the test results. You do testing twice a year, correct?
Three times a year, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you're kind of seeing now. I know it's not complete, but
Right. Well, we as teachers believe that in-person learning is the best. And we really don't know what's happening at any other school, but we just realize that our kids as a group have grown significantly since what they were doing in the fall when they tested the first time this year. So what we look at is individual students, obviously, for how much growth they've had. We look at classes and the amount of growth they had. We look at charts that show everything from kids that unfortunately have low achievement and haven't grown much, all the way to the students that have had high achievement and have grown a lot. And we have little dots in there for where all the kids are. And what was beautiful as we looked at the information we have so far is the dots are so skewed to that high achievement and high growth level, thanks to our teachers and parents and the hard work of the kids, frankly. Mm-hmm. So that was something we really, really noticed on our test scores. And the other thing we notice is that the majority of our kids, sometimes, the majority of our kids are scoring substantially above what would be considered a national average, what they call 50th percentile. And so our scores are skewed way to the other direction. But we have several classes where well over half the kids have scored in the top 20% nationwide in math and reading. So we still have some results to come in. We have kids who haven't taken it because they're out on quarantine, but it's looking good, and our teachers and kids have done a great job.
Yeah, well, that's really good news to hear, and I'd love to see how the parents being in a good, solid, providing that good, solid home support, plus the teachers, just really help the kids flourish and excel.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
so important, as well as the face-to-face learning.
Right.
It's just so much better.
Right.
Than the online.
We believe that.
Yep. You have what else do you have?
Well, we are not going to have our Camp Spirit summer program for K-5 children this summer. It's just the time to say, let's reorganize and reconfigure. But that is going to allow us to do some general upgrades on campus now that we have access to the facilities. We forget that this building is being used a lot, and we don't shut down for the summer typically. And we will still have early childhood children here. We will still have pre-kindergarten age children here on campus all summer long. But we're thankful for that. We are already planning for next year. I mean, there's all kinds of things happening. In March, I send out letters to staff. What are your intentions for the coming year? We are enrolling already. In fact, March 1st is when we open it up to new families after giving a month for our current families to re-enroll. It's a time for us to look at curriculum and textbook updating. We're looking at changes in programs, perhaps. We're adopting a school calendar. We talked about that extensively, and it looks like the start of school will probably be the second full week in August, meaning we will all have a short summer. Thank you, COVID. And finally, you're going to just tell them about the process of seeking God's will for leadership here.
Right.
So a lot of stuff coming for next year.
Yeah. All right. Since you broached that subject,
Yeah.
let me go ahead and just, talk briefly. But pretty much, I think everybody has heard that Mr. Boyd has announced his retirement here at the end of the school year. Becky, your wife, a longtime teacher here as well, is also going to join you in some new adventures.
That's
You're
right.
staying here local
Right.
in Lakeland. You're going to continue to be a member of the church, involved in active in ministry, both of them. And we want to bless them and have that opportunity to thank them for their years of service. But, what is coming next? Well, we're in the midst of the call process, and the Board of Trustees has chosen those folks, and it's in the bulletin, who will be a part of the call committee. So I just wanted to go ahead and share those names with you at this time. For the chairperson, it'll be Jennifer Judge, and she's a representative from the at-large portion of the congregation. Another at-large representative of the congregation is Kelly Southmaid. She was actually a board president for the school board there for a while. A teacher representative is Lori Lee Joris and Nikki Knazer are both teacher representatives. Amy Fort will represent the school board. She is our current president of the school board. Bill Elliott will represent the board of trustees, and I will represent the staff and be the pastoral representative. So it's a committee of seven. I can't add. It's a committee of 7. And we didn't want to get it too big because it's just too hard to get people together with schedules and things like that. But they'll be doing, and we'll be doing a lot of work coming up very soon. You're going to hear more and more about it. We'll try to keep you informed through newsletter as well as the weekly bulletin as things develop. So,
And you'll be seeking input from
yes,
groups
absolutely.
outside that 7, right?
Right, yep.
Faculty and parents and church members, yeah.
Yep. So, I'm sure there'll be some surveys and things like that to go out. We will get direction from our board, our district representative from the LCMS over there in Orlando, and his name is Mark Brink, and he'll be sharing some things that we need to do before we get to the point of where we're looking at people and actually calling people.
Yep.
So there's a process that's been laid out for this. So just know that we're working on it, and we will be keeping you informed on that. If you have any questions, please feel free to talk to any of those people, or give me a call or drop me an email.
Right.
Did you have anything else?
No, just,
right.
yeah, thankful for God's continued blessing.
Yep. And what a great ministry we are blessed with here at St. Paul, and the support of you, the church, for this ministry.
Absolutely.
All right, I got Tracy here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been happening in the church as far as on the financial side, as well as, just general building things. And one of the biggest things that has happened to us is, whether you were aware of it or not, is we had a kind of a Noah moment.
A little flood, yes, we did, in the church office. So we came into water running from the ceiling down in through the main part of the office. So we've had to do a little renovation, which at the time was very frustrating, but is a blessing now. And of course, insurance helped pay for most of that. But we're enjoying our new space and kind of redesigning. And I think it looks great. So
I
if
do
you come
too.
into the church office, swing by and tell us what you think.
You and your team that have been working on replacing the desks and all the stuff that basically the water got into it and it just kind of
Right.
blew up.
Right.
It looks great.
We're still working. I thought we'd be done by now, but challenges in getting things delivered has definitely stymied the project just a little bit, but it's looking good.
It is. I
Yeah.
remember for a while, it's like you had to go outside to think.
Yeah.
Because of all the evaporators and
Yes.
dehumidifiers and fans that were going to dry out the drywall,
That's
as well
right.
as the water under the floor as well as on top of the floor, and had to have all the carpet removed. It was a mess.
It was a mess for a little while.
It smelled great for a while too.
Yes.
That's sarcasm. So, all right, so that's kind of on the our side of things of the structures here around the
Right.
church. I don't think there was really anything else, thankfully, that
Thankfully.
we've had to really deal with to get fixed. But on the finance side, you don't make these decisions alone. I don't make these alone. We've got
Right.
the board of trustees that's over everything. Underneath that, we've got a couple different committees that work. One's the endowment, and as people give money to the church, and that's divided into different buckets, so to speak, and then the board of finance as well. And so those entities actually got to bless the staff, didn't they?
Yes, so we were happy to announce to our staff that they are getting a raise. We usually do that at this time each year. And I'll be honest with you, last March, when we shut down, I had no idea what God was going to do with that. But we were able to give our employees a raise. And so thank them for all their hard work, extra hard work during this time. And thankfully, the budget looks good. We're in the black in the church and the school. Contributions are good. We appreciate everyone who does online and does that on an automated basis so that it just continues to come in. And I would encourage you, if that interests you, to go to our website, stpaullakeland.org, and the Give button is out there. So it's pretty easy to be able to do that. And we're very happy for all of our regular supporters who have also supported our ministry partners a lot this past year. It's been amazing to see what our congregation does and how they give and how they respond in challenges to both our benevolence fund and all of our ministry partners. It's really been great.
Yeah, it's giving, in helping them succeed to be able to do ministry financially, whether it's Moving Hope or Idols Aside or Options for Women, any of those ministries, Global Ranch. All those, the benevolence fund, as you mentioned, but it's also people are giving of their time and talent
Right.
as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I got to witness that this last weekend, maybe now a couple weekends ago, I guess, with Idols Aside. Just people stepping up and going, I can provide some meals for the kids while they're out there experiencing life and nature and hearing about the
Right.
Word of God. So it's a lot of different ways. It's financially as well as the time and the talent.
Right.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. Let's see here. We trying to remember. Part of that was when we started school. At the beginning of the year,
It was a
it
little.
was, but we were blessed there though too, weren't we?
Yes. So in January, we received at least 20 additional students into our school. The enrollment just had a great big spike, and just some super families that came in to join our already awesome families and just to make the family of our school bigger. And obviously that helps the bottom line as well.
Right. Yep. Because we started off a little low.
Yes, we did.
And
Yes, we did.
we kind of reached a point where we stopped having people withdraw,
Right.
and then we started building. And
Yes.
it was a slow build, and then all of a sudden in January, I think people were like going, I've had my kids home enough.
Right. Please take them.
Yeah. Mr. Boyd and I had talked about the importance of face-to-face learning.
Yes.
Compared to, online.
Right.
And it's definitely the better way to go. We see that in the test scores that we talked about a little bit there too.
Yeah.
All right, Tracy, I appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, want more information, finance, building, whatever it might be,
please feel free to contact Tracy or myself, and we'll be glad to talk with you more about it. God bless. Next up, we've got Nick Moss, our DCE, is joining us, and there's a number of things that you need to share with us.
Sure.
That you get to share with us in a
Yeah.
great way. I've taught confirmation before.
Yeah.
I am glad I'm not teaching confirmation right now. What's different?
Sure. So we teach confirmation for 6th and 7th graders, and it's been different with COVID. And this fall we were still Zoom. We're actually going to do Zoom again for the spring session, which just starts actually on Wednesday the 23rd. So we want to try to build community, and right now the best way we can do that is through Zoom. And so we're going through the Being Challenge as a confirmation class, and then we're doing some catechism stuff with the 7th grade kids because they go through catechism in 7th grade. We're doing that as a retreat. And so we're still planning on having confirmation end of April. And so, we're doing the best that we can with what we got.
Yeah. So you have some other things that are normal living and breathing parts of
Right.
St. Paul and being a DCE.
Right.
What else is going on in your ministry?
So children's ministry, again with COVID, we're starting to see some families come back and in-person worship with Children's Church. Our numbers are still lower than they were pre-COVID, but we have somebody new, Becca. Her family came into St. Paul, I think, a couple years ago, and she's our Children's Church coordinator, Strasser. So I'm excited. If you see Becca around, say hi to her. She's a great blessing. She served kind of in that role in a church in Louisiana that she was at. So her and I have been working with Children's Church in that. Sunday school's back up and running. Nursery's up and running. We don't really have very many little ones right now coming to nursery, I think, again, because of COVID. And then we've got middle school youth ministry that we've been meeting. We cut back our meeting times. We only meet once a month now, but we still separate the grade levels to try to space people out. And again, kind of looking towards the next school year is really ramping up our small group ministries. We had to really take a year off with COVID for that. And then high school youth ministry, that's one of the kind of quirks of COVID is actually we've got more high schoolers participating during COVID than we had pre-COVID. So I don't know exactly why that is. It just is. And so we're thankful for that. And we're able to start planning. I mean, we've tried to plan events, and then they get canceled because of COVID. But we are planning for a summer sermon event into July to Atlanta for a full week for high school students. We're pairing with another church over on the East Coast, and we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to do that. And so we're starting the registration process with that now.
That's fantastic. So is St. Paul a healthy church?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is the school a healthy school?
Absolutely, yes.
So I'm leading you here, as you can probably tell. Look, we have been gifted an opportunity in many ways at this point to maybe give a little something back to the church.
Yeah.
And so what are we praying for? What are we hoping for that has been talked about from the leadership levels all the way up to the board of trustees?
Right.
And working out a plan here that we'll see if God opens that door for us.
Right. So you and I have talked about it. I've talked about it with some other leaders is, we do have a great ministry here at St. Paul with the church and a school, and would love to see more future church leaders and workers get trained up and use our place as that. And so in our Concordia University college systems, we have teachers and DCEs, deaconesses, and pastors that get trained. And so we applied last year for a DC intern, and because of COVID, everything just kind of came to a halt. And so we reapplied this year. Board of Trustees approved that. And we have now put all of our stuff into Concordia University in Seward, Nebraska. They have a DCE program.
Stop. Make sure we all know what a DCE is.
So, Director of Christian Education. Yep. Okay. And it's a 4-year program with a 5th-year internship. And so they put out interns, and it's a full 365-day internship. They have churches apply, and they match up the best they can with the candidate, the intern, and the church. So we've applied for that. We've put a lot of paperwork in, financial commitment for that. And we will know probably mid-April whether or not we were matched up with someone. If for some reason Concordia, Nebraska doesn't have somebody, we've given them permission to share with other Concordias. There's 5 programs in our synod. So we'll see probably by end of April. So we're praying that God will provide a DC intern, and that person's got a job description. If we get them, they're going to be doing a lot of children, youth, adult ministry, trying to get them into a lot of places that maybe you'd see me in. I'd be their supervisor, and then they would also have some other responsibilities, but they'd be full-time here for a full 365 days.
Yeah. So they would be doing some things like maybe helping teach maybe some of the religious studies in the school, for example.
Yeah, they could teach Christian studies. They
help you teach confirmation when that
confirmation,
comes around, or
involved in youth ministries, Sunday school. They'll probably, the job description is they would take some more leadership roles in certain areas and then more kind of partnering with some other areas. So yeah, we're excited. We're waiting to see what's going to happen.
and plus we have the Hmong ministry then that they could experience, which they wouldn't get to have that experience in other churches. And then we have a lot of our new ministry partners.
Yep.
Like Moving Hope.
Yep.
Like Lobo Ranch, Idols Aside. They would get some experience in that many other churches don't have that opportunity or haven't taken that opportunity to foster those moments.
Yeah, and with the school is huge too, and getting to develop those relationships with the school ministry is just a huge learning opportunity. And it is a learning opportunity. They are still technically a student, and so that's a big thing to remember as we get an intern on. Some of you old timers here at St. Paul might remember that I was an intern at one point, and so giving lots of grace is always a good thing in that. So hopefully we'll get to announce if God provides. We're praying for that, an intern. Probably by the end of April, we'll know whether or not we get one or not. So I'm hopeful, and we'll see what God does.
One of the differences is when you went, you did your internship here.
Correct.
And then the next year you got hired here.
Correct.
We're really not looking for that. We're just
Correct.
looking to give back to the church, to train up so that they have a really great experience. They learn, and then they can apply the experiences that they had here
Absolutely.
to wherever they would get called.
Right, absolutely.
So,
And
a little
so
bit different than maybe what the idea was before.
Yeah, some churches will use it kind of as a let's try this person out and see if they work. We're not going down that road. We're going down. We want to help train somebody up. Obviously, we get blessed by it because somebody loves Jesus, bringing in new ideas, energy, youthful. All that stuff is great. But it's a great relationship too because they're going to get a great experience.
Anything else, Nick, that you have to share with us?
I guess one of the last things would be Vacation Bible School. So last year with COVID, it just kind of got that weren't able to have it. We still want to try to do some type of Vacation Bible School, and I'm working with one or two people right now on what that might look like. It's going to look different than what we've done in the past. Some parents may not know, but we have usually a summer camp here for our kindergarten through 5th grade, and that's not happening this year. We're just doing our early childhood program and preschool program here. And they usually join us for VBS, so everything's different from COVID. And so we're just seeing, okay, God, what would you want us to do? So there's one model we're looking at would be an evening family VBS for maybe 3 to 4 nights. And we're looking right now at the 3rd week in June. So you want to pencil that in on your calendar. That's what we're looking for.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Just excited to see where God is going to lead St. Paul in the future, and I'm excited to see, especially with our youth and children ministries coming out of COVID. I'm excited to interact with more families.
Yeah, I just wish God's blessings on your ministry, actually God's ministry, as He continues to use you and the people that you're working with, that you're raising up as leaders, to be a blessing into God's kingdom as well. So thank you for everything that you do.
Absolutely.
All right, Ken, our director of music, or I sometimes we ought to think we ought to change your title to, instead of music, just director of worship, because it's a big job. So, what's happening in your world?
Lots is happening in the world. We continue to go through COVID and the new phases of that, where we deal with the different just life cycles of people as they kind of reintegrate into normal life. So we've had some college students who went away and kind of came in over the holidays, and that was really fun to have them in town for that. And we were able to capture some neat moments in the life of the church with our brass and our woodwinds really kind of getting integrated into our worship services. So that's one of the new things we're actually working on following up and building off of that experience this year. Over the course of this year, we'll see our woodwinds, we'll see our brass participate. We're shooting for about monthly, hopefully to kind of accelerate that toward the end of the year, just so we can see them participate in the life of worship at St. Paul. One of the things that you challenged me early on as you brought me on here to St. Paul was, to build bridges between the school and the church within the avenues of worship. And so we've been doing that with getting our students who are just really, really well trained through Mr. Bates's programs to then step into serving in the life of the church. And so this is one of the ways we're doing that.
And so you have some music overlap. They're using that to help teach them and make that transition.
Right. Not only is there the skill overlap with the kind of the classical instruments, the orchestral instruments, the school also has chapel services weekly. I think most people maybe know that, but if you're not familiar with that, you can go online. I think Mr. Boyd may have mentioned this as well. You can go online and watch those on Wednesdays. But they have a chapel praise band, which I'm responsible for directing. And so what we've done this year is to have them learn the same new songs that our 1047 crew is learning. Again, just trying to create avenues, those bridges between service within the school and their normal middle school life, and then translating that into Sunday mornings. And we continue to see kids taking voice lessons and guitar lessons and different things. So just training and equipping the saints to do the work of the ministry, which is a pretty cool thing.
Yep. We continue to be blessed with, organists and people who can play music, and people who are willing to lead pieces like, Crystal Lemker, for example. But you've got somebody new on.
Yeah, we actually added a new role in the music ministry early this year. It was in January we finally took those steps. Elsie Augenblick, many of you know her. She's sung in our worship services. She participates in song leading. She even helped us out at the 5 o'clock a number of times. But she's taking on the role of taking some of these goals that we've set aside as a high level for what we want music to look like. We want excellent music. We want people to have a great volunteer experience. We want just those different pieces of it. And we want people to see how significant they are spiritually within the life of the church. So she's taking those goals and fleshing them out into some strategies with our 8:30 song leaders. So last couple weeks, she's been up there. Crystal's been up there, directing the organ and the song leaders to kind of bring a little bit of cohesion, a little more tightness to their technique. But we're going to continue to see Elsie just in front, directing a little bit within that role, not the choir. That's still Crystal's role with the ensembles there, but giving that behind-the-scenes leadership and training to our song leaders to really just facilitate their growth.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Anything else coming up in music or anything else you want to talk about? There's a piece here that I need to introduce.
Sure. Now there's, Easter and all sorts of fun stuff around that. So if you are interested in participating, let me know. But otherwise, just kind of keep your eyes open for what God's doing there.
Yeah. So. Participate. Sing when you come
That's
to
right.
worship.
That's right.
Online or face-to-face.
One thing that if I can interject a thought there on that note, one thing that we've been talking about in our rehearsals and stuff is just the role as musicians of facilitating the congregation's worship of God. And so that is a big part of why we're doing that, is so people can sing along and feel comfortable in their space.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So I just want to introduce something here that maybe you don't know about, but in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, in this school, we have teachers that come to work and to be a part of the ministry here. Some of them have been trained up in the Synod, and some have not. And those that have not always have the option to do what is called a colloquy. A colloquy is where they take some classes through the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod that are provided, and then they are considered, once they complete that coursework, a called teacher in a Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. And so they are no longer a contract employee, but a called employee. And currently right now we've got Kelly Ogoloro, who is our ECEC program director. She's going through it. Jason Harris, our middle school teacher, has started it. Benita, our a teacher at ECEC and after school program. She does a lot of different hats. She's going through it. Katie Sherman, your wife, is going through that as well as a teacher here. And I think there's a couple others that are thinking and talking about it. And so you might not know also that there's different ways, just as a teacher, to become a called worker within the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod as a pastor. Now, everybody knows the traditional way. You go through the seminary process, and it's usually 4 years. You come on out, and then you're a called and ordained pastor in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. There's another program called the SMP program. That's where they take people who have had some longevity in leadership within the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Maybe they served as a teacher or a principal. Maybe they served as a DCE or in some other position. And then they take some classes. Some are online, some are face-to-face. And then they come into become a pastor as well as called and ordained. There's a third way that some people have probably never heard of. And that is a colloquy position, again, very much like the teachers. So a colloquy pastor is a pastor who has served as a pastor in another denomination who then wants to become a pastor in the LCMS. And there's a specific application for that, a specific process that they have to go through. They have to go through some interviews, usually 2 or 3 times. There's some, of course, studies and book work that go along the whole process in there. Ken, some people, again, may not have known this. Some people do. You're actually a pastor in the Baptist tradition, Baptist faith. And so you went to your, what was required for your education to get that degree, to have that ordination opportunity. But you've expressed an interest to become a pastor in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. That's a pretty cool thing. And so you wanted to take a look at the colloquy program, and you and I have sat down. We've taken a look at that. We've talked to some people at the seminary. We've talked to our district president. We've talked to some of the people in Synod, actually, that have their hands in this. And you're going to be starting to do the application process, which comes first, sometime after Easter. And then if you're accepted, you're going to move through the colloquy process to become a pastor in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod if God continues to open those doors, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, you excited about that?
I am.
I'm excited too for you. I think it'll be great, and we'll just see what God kind of does with that in the days, weeks, and months ahead. This doesn't mean, I just want to make sure that everybody understands, this is a training opportunity that we have been given, just like the DCE intern position in some ways, or the colloquy for teachers, to stand beside you and work with you to provide the training that's needed. You have to have a supervisor, a pastor who's supervising over you. And we're talking about who that might be, because I'm not the only one in the congregation that's a pastor. We've got a couple retired pastors in here as well. So, what would that look like? We're going to see you keep your role as music director. I want to make sure that everybody understands that and knows that, okay? But also then on top of that, we're going to see Ken, as he moves through this process, begin to have the opportunity to lead worship more. You've led worship here a couple times, but do that a little bit more and have the opportunity to preach and share God's word, because that's part of the training. So we are blessed to be able to raise up another church worker. Now, I know some of you, your minds are automatically going, Ken's going to be our next associate pastor. Breathe. Take it easy, okay? He's got a ways to go. We're not really sure how long that's going to be for him to move through the colloquy process, because it's different for each person that applies. And at the end of this, we'll see what God leads. But right now, we're just called to journey and get the opportunity. It's really a blessing to journey with Ken as he moves through some training, and we see what God does. So remember, right now, he's continuing and will continue to be our music director, but he's going to get the opportunity to experience some training there as he moves through the colloquy process. So we'll keep you informed on how that goes as we move through this. Yeah. Did I miss anything in that, Ken, that you can think of?
I think there's a lot of details there, but
there is a lot of details there.
And thank you for the opportunity, obviously.
We've talked about it with the Board of Trustees, and they were very supportive of it. I think it's a good thing going forward to raise up, people from amongst God's people to into different positions
Right.
as we feel called to do so. So I just want to really encourage you to keep Ken and his family in prayers, because he'll be going through colloquy. His wife's going through colloquy. That's a lot right there. And it's not like you're without kids. You've got kids he's got to take care of, plus normal jobs.
Sure.
In normal positions here of ministry, both of you. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me personally. I prefer you talk to me about it, okay, than anyone else, and I'll be glad to explain or answer any questions that you might have. Ken, is there anything else that's going on that we might have missed?
I don't think so.
All
God is
right.
good. There's
All
a lot
right.
he's doing.
God bless. All right, it is my pleasure to introduce, and I know many of you know him, but just Chris Paul, our current chair of our Board of Trustees, and he has some things that he wants to share with you about what's happening on the Board of Trustees, what you're working towards, what you've done, and things like that. So, Chris, please let us know what's happening.
Thanks, Pastor. Yes, because we didn't hold our normal voters meeting here in February, I wanted to have a chance to just update the congregation. So this year, the Board of Trustees committed to a number of things that we wanted to accomplish as a group. And it's a strong group of folks here from the church, good leaders, and just really happy that we have such a core group this year. Among other things, we worked on a calendar. The board is tasked with many things to be done by our policy board, or our policy manual. And if we don't have a systematic way of checking those boxes, things can get lost. So we've created a calendar so that each month there are certain things we know we have to achieve, and those are agenda items each and every month. So we think that's a good thing. Earlier this year, we met with Jim Gavin, and I mentioned him on a previous conversation. And, our Board of Trustees is set up at St. Paul to be a policy-making board, meaning it's our role to provide lanes and let pastor and others do their job. And, that's a different way of thinking for many of us. So we wanted to do a check-in, and Jim Gavin came and spent some time with us just to kind of help us understand our role and make sure we're in our lanes and also fulfilling our responsibilities to the church. So that's been a good thing, and we'll meet with him one more time this year. Also, we've talked a lot, Pastor, about leadership development over the years. And I guess the best way to say it is this church has been blessed with some great leaders over the years. And I don't want to miss anybody or leave someone out, so I'm not going to go through the whole list, but picture in your mind some of the great leaders that have come before us and mentored those of us on the board today and others that have been on the board. And I can remember interactions specifically in our church at different times in my life where I was encouraged and mentored. And we just don't have a good way of doing that right now, or at least we on the board feel like we need to do a better job of raising up leaders in our church. So we're working on that. COVID kind of derailed some of that interaction that we were hoping to have, but look for that. And if you have ideas, we'd love to hear them of ways that we can bring leaders up in our congregation and prepare them for roles in the future with the church. Lastly, we've got a couple of committees that have been formed. Each year we have a nominating committee, and at our February voters meeting, we announce who's on that committee. This is a nominating committee for the Board of Trustees. And so we have a couple of open spots this year that will need to be filled. So Paul Trinkline is our vice chair for the Board of Trustees and is tasked with forming the nominating committee and coming up with a list of candidates that will be voted upon this summer to fill the 2 spots on the Board of Trustees. So on the nominating committee this year are Paul Trinkline, Richard Saxton, Angela Verne, Joe Neiman, Kim Russ, Allison Braun. So that's your nominating committee. If you have folks that you would like to nominate to be on the Board of Trustees, we have, again, 2 spots to be filled in our June voters meeting. Get in touch with one of those people, and they will make sure that candidate is under consideration for nomination. And lastly, it may have been talked about on a previous conversation, but we did form a call committee so that we can actively seek our next school principal. And so on that committee is Pastor Jennifer Judge is the chair, Nikki Knazer, Lori Lee Jors, Bill Elliott, Amy Fort, and Kelly Southmaid. So there's your call committee.
Yeah, and you've said some things there that I just want to kind of key in on. We're doing these quarterly, updates, state of the church, and we didn't get to meet face to face, COVID this time, because we really didn't feel. Part of it was we didn't really need to take the chance because there wasn't really any action items. But when we come to June, when we actually have the elections, that's also when we present the budget too. So that one will be face to face. So there won't be a pre-recorded state of the church. It's going to have the opportunity we're going to have to gather face to face because that's what we're required to do.
100%.
Yeah, to vote for the budget as well as the replacements for those two people.
Right.
In addition to that, just know that the call committee will be giving the congregation some updates as we move along through this process. It won't be a quarterly thing, but it'll be, weekly to monthly, depending on what gets accomplished. And if you have any questions, you can get a hold of any of those folks. Jennifer Judge is the main person as far as the chairperson, but we'll keep you informed on that moving forward. Chris, anything else that you need to share with us?
No, we're so thankful for you and for those in ministry here at St. Paul. These have been unusual times, and kind of finding our way through this like every other church. But I get to see and visit a lot of other churches in my role, and we're doing an exceptional job. We're very, very blessed. So
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're all working hard, all of us together, the whole congregation, because it's just not me, it's just not Ken, it's just not Nick or any of the other staff. It's all of us. We're all in God's kingdom work, one way or the other.
Absolutely.
So,
takes a
all
lot
right.
of people.
God bless. Thanks
God
for
bless.
being here.
Thanks.
All right, I get to wrap it up, and I know it's time to wrap it up. We have covered a lot of things in the state of the church. Some really exciting things, as I told you and mentioned before when I encourage you to watch this, just with Ken, just with a DCE intern. Want to hit a couple more things just to help us understand, continue to connect together as the body of Christ. I really want to encourage you to, because our rhythms have been disrupted so much, to try to get back in the rhythm of life, get back into the rhythm of worship. All right? It's corporate. It is community. It's connecting to Jesus. It's Jesus connecting to us. It's reading the scriptures. It's prayer. It's all these different things that really help us in a time like we are going through, where depression and marriages are in trouble, and problems with our kids sometimes that crop up because of the disruption in their lives. And graduation's still going to look different for many of our seniors this year. I've got a girl graduating. Grace is going to be graduating. And, just found out today that, their senior skip day, where they're supposed to go over to the Universal Studios, it's not really a skip day, but it's planned, is now unplanned. They're not going to be doing that. So they're not going to have that opportunity to gather as a class and do those things. So just, I think, really examining where you are at, whether you're really not ready to come back in to church, whether you're kind of, yes, I can, and sometimes I can't, I don't feel comfortable with it, or whether you're just all the way back in and you just want to get back to living life, wherever you're at, we respect that. And we want to work with you where you are. So, if there's a way that we can serve you better, let us know. But really, we're hoping that you're going to feel more and more comfortable entering back into the worshiping community as you are able. So just again, I want to really encourage you on that. Take a look at the different ways we are having Holy Week, especially watch that service time. We've added services for Maundy, Thursday, and Good Friday that weren't there previously. And we've added an outdoor service that was there, done in front of the church at the 7 o'clock time, But now we're doing it in the field. And you can stay in your car and listen to it on your FM radio, or you can have the opportunity to come out and just sit in a chair that you want to bring right in front of the stage that'll be set up. That'll be our social distance service, okay? So however you want to worship, just make sure you check out those different opportunities, all right? Just really want to encourage you as we move through Lent to do a little examination on that of yourself and where you're at and how God is trying to speak to you. So a few things that I just want to hit really quickly in closing. One of the things that we've talked about before is Lutheran Counseling Services. We have 2 counselors here that make themselves available with appointments. So we've got a male and we've got a female, Mike and Amy, and one is doing this via phone at this time. The other one will meet with you in person. If you have that need, that is still here. But because we have seen the effects of the shutdown and COVID and isolation really affecting our school and church families, especially those that are in the school, we are bringing on a counselor to the end of the year where the person will be here on Mondays, and they will be walking around campus. They'll be here for the teachers, and they'll have an opportunity to meet with students with parents' permission going forward. So this is an additional opportunity to try to make sure that we are living a healthy life, that our kids are living healthier lives, that they have the opportunity to express maybe what's going on in their heart. And what are they thinking about and what are they struggling with? And so we're going to do that till the end of the school year, and then next year we will likely then reestablish a relationship with them going into the school year where we bring on a counselor or two to carry us through the next year as well. So that's one thing. Another thing. Some of you, I heard about 25, almost 30 of couples were able to come together and have the opportunity to go to a marriage enrichment opportunity on a Friday night. This a couple weeks back, I guess it was. I was not able to go. But that wasn't a one and done. Marriages are under stress, and we want to make sure that we're trying to equip you and give you the tools needed to help you in your marriage. And the best tools are the ones that come from the faith side. And so we have a woman who is a Christian. She's a pastor's wife. She's got a great opportunity to serve people in Tampa, and she is coming down here to Lakeland to serve us. So we've got 2 more of those scheduled coming up. One is March 12th, and it is on communication, how not to let it kill your romance. I need to attend this badly, okay, because I can kill romance really quickly as a guy. Maybe that's you too, all right? So I just want to encourage you. It's an hour basically, and then you're encouraged to go out and have dinner with your spouse so you don't kill the romance. You don't say those things, communication, that you just go, why didn't I obey the red light flashing in the corner of my eye, and I opened my mouth when I shouldn't have, and I should have bit my tongue a little bit. Next one, April 16th, romance, how to keep it kindled in your marriage. So these are both timely topics, and we just really want to encourage you, whether you've been married a long time or maybe you're newlyweds or you're going to get married, we've got a number of weddings coming up on the books, that you participate and take advantage of these opportunities. They're free babysitting if you have kids. We'll feed your kids. And you can go out then, like I said, for dinner and have the opportunity to just digest what you'd heard and what you have learned. So please continue to keep that in prayer and mark your calendar for those dates. Again, look, we are here together as brothers and sisters in Christ. We want to continue to grow together. We want to love Jesus. We want to understand his love for us. We also want to serve one another. We want to come together as community, whatever that community looks like. But coming together is very important. And then have that opportunity to go out and serve others. And so we continue to look for ways to do that together as the body of Christ. So God bless you. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me, and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, whatever it is that you are doing or time of day that you're watching this.